Since it looks like we got a small group, if anybody has any specific questions, go ahead and add them, and we'll cover them. Make sure everybody gets as much as they can out of it. Okay, so today we are talking about Darkroom Booth for iPad. I'm working from my iPad, so then in the demo, there's going to be some things that we're going to kind of have to skip over just because I'm using it via Wi-Fi, so that kind of takes out a few of those options. But I do have guides that go over some of the other things, like using this little guy for printing. This is an awesome little option, Aircast Pro, but it uses Wi-Fi. We're going to connect to it through Wi-Fi, and I'm currently using internet right now. So that's one thing we'll skip, but I do have a guide on that. And just like the other webinars, we have a guide to work along with at darkroomsupport.com under Darkroom Booth for iPad, and then webinars. The video will be posted here, so if you miss anything, it will be available probably later today, maybe tomorrow. And then we have links for everything we're discussing, and it's going to go a little bit more in depth into some of these things. And then, like I said before, there are certain things that you need to be able to use off of with a non-internet Wi-Fi, and I have guides for those. So there's that option, wireless printing. So you're not missing out on it. I just can't demo it while I'm doing this. There are a couple things like that. Another small thing that I wanted to show was Event Gallery, and they're working through some issues right now. So hopefully we'll test it out. I'm logged in, but it's possible mine will not upload. But Event Gallery is awesome. If you have not tried it out, it's definitely worth looking into. eventgallery.com. Okay, so first thing we're going to get into is our subscription. You can use Darkroom Booth for iPad on up to 10 devices, as long as they all have the same Apple ID. And this comes from Apple's licensing agreement. This is not something we manage. So whenever you sign up, you're signing up through Apple. And if you run into any issues, they would be the people to handle the money aspect and the subscription. But it is kind of cool that you can use it on one subscription will work for up to 10 devices. So if you have quite a few iPads, it's an awesome option. So one of the things that we also see that helps quite a bit is reinstalling the software every once in a while. And let me see. What am I getting notifications? Oh, okay. Well, it looks like I might still be in a chat from work, but please excuse those notifications. If you have to reinstall and you're already licensed, you can go into your master settings and under the little cog or the sprocket, and then account, and there should be an option right here to restore. I think it's restore purchase. So you click on that, it'll look at your Apple ID, see that you already have it, and then restore that purchase. And that's how you would activate it on a second device, so you don't have to buy it again through the App Store. The software is downloaded through the App Store, but once you buy it, you can use it on up to 4 computers. And if you run into any questions as we're working through this, just ask me, and I have our chat open. So if anybody has any questions, please ask them. I am just double checking. Okay. So we'll go ahead and create a new event. So you have your master settings, and those apply globally across the board. This would be if you're using Darkroom Booth, your global settings. You have your master settings, and those are kind of like your pre-built. So let's just say you had your images set to capture with a certain options, like let's say 4x6 with your logo on it. You can build that and kind of as a template, and we're using template in a different word than we're used to, but and then you can go into your event settings and then override any of those settings. But each time you create an event, it's going to look at your master settings to apply to the just the general settings, and then you can make small changes or completely change everything from the event settings. So just to kind of get a little better idea why you have the exact same settings in two different places. One of them is your default preferences, and then in your, we'll go ahead and click OK. In your event settings, you have the same thing, but those are specific for that specific event. So where this might be helpful in how you would understand it, let's say you have your wedding, you do wedding photo booths, and you need to update the actual graphic for each event. That's where you're going to have a default setting, and if for some reason you forget to set up your event beforehand, you always use a default. It's just missing the personalized information. But then you would create your event and then make changes on top of it or to those default preferences. So I'm going to just call this demo. And first we're going to go into the still images. This would be a single photo or multiple photos, but they're not animated or in a sequence. They're just captured just as if you're taking a picture with a camera. So we're going to leave it on front camera. And it's good just to, if you're first starting out, just to kind of leave everything as is. Test it, make sure everything's working, because one of the things we run into quite a bit with from the support end is somebody starts up, adds a whole bunch of stuff into it, and then tests it after they've spent an hour or two setting it up, and then something's not working, and it's hard to tell where that issue was because it's an hour or two worth of work. So I usually just recommend just testing it as is. So we'll just create that event and then start it. Oops. And this is reminding you, if you need to exit the booth, that you tap on, what would this be, like 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, to exit. So it's just a reminder if you ever need to get out. So let's see if we can angle this a little better. So it's going to take a single image as a square, and you can see it's already cropped, and we're going to click done. We know that's working. So now at this point, it's a good idea to, whoops, exit. We'll go back in and edit. And now let's switch it, save the picture. Oh, I am sorry. Yes, I have this screen. Thank you for reminding me that I can see the screen, but I have to turn it on this computer. So yes, let me kind of go back a little bit. We were talking about, and this is just a quick recap. These are the master settings here, and this is applied as your general preferences, and then you have your event settings that are here, and you'll see that they, oops, click edit. They look very similar. So saving my pictures were an issue for me. There's a few different ways to save them. You can save them locally, or you can save them to the cloud. So let's go ahead and make some changes, and then we'll look at those settings. So we'll switch over to a 2x6, and we're getting ready to start adding prints, but we can click next. We're just doing some very small changes. Square, yeah, we'll leave that, and then let's turn on the burst mode. So here's the saving options. You can save, if you have everything checked, it should save locally to your iPad, and in this case I have it set to upload to Event Gallery, but you can also right here towards the bottom, you can link and upload to Dropbox or OneDrive. Now those two options kind of can be a little bit finicky because they're always making changes for your security, and then we have to make a change to keep up with them. So Event Gallery, because we maintain it, that one's going to be the most suggested because we're testing it to make sure it works with our software. But these options right here are your saving options, whether it's to a offsite or locally to the iPad. You just want to make sure those are checked. And then I have email. We'll go over that in just a moment. We'll skip it for right now. So now when we start it, we can see the updates we've made. So we can see that we have the take photo, which will now take 3 photos. We have a GIF, which is going to take a few, I don't know how many photos in sequence. We'll find out. It's not seeing me. This is still working. And then it should give you a preview after the image is captured. Let's try one of these others. Let's see, it's acting a little bit funny, and I do tend to use beta versions that sometimes are not. Oh, there it goes. It was working. Okay. So burst mode. It's going to take a sequence of images. You can see 15 photos. And it's kind of like almost a little video that's recording, but it's actually pictures rather than a video. Opposed to like burst mode inside Darkroom Booth, where it's a video and then it's chopped up. These are actually still images. So we'll click done. And then let's see if it will let me do the GIF. It looks like it's having a problem with the GIF option. But what that will do is it will take this exit and see our options again there. So under GIF, it's going to take 5 photos, similar to what we saw with burst mode, but just the playback is quite a bit slower. And the one of the cool options you have here is you can use animated backgrounds. I'll give you an example. And you can see that those are the images we just captured. So if you look at this background, you'll notice that the actual leaves are falling. So you can add a graphic overlay on top of this guy right here, enable. Oops. And then you can apply the images. Let's see. Let's pull up. And I'm sure I will get them out in the wrong order. I'm trying to find. Camera files. Yeah. So you would just add those images in the sequence, and then whenever they it captures, they would then be in that overlay would be animated as well. Mirror overlay. We had this question come up. Mirror overlay when displayed. So let's imagine that you had like something that you were interacting with. It was an object inside, and because you're mirroring let's pretend with this bottle of water, because you're interacting with it on the screen, whenever it flips the mirroring, then it looks more like this. So if you flip the overlay on the display, it would then match up when it flips back. And that's really nothing for use with something you would interact with. But most cases it's not necessary. Okay, so let's go back and start looking. Oh, and then let's talk about the burst mode real quick. So we have it set for 15 shots. In this one, we have the same options, and it works very similar. The main difference is the rate at which captures, and kind of how it's playing back. They're made for similar things, but they're very similar, but slightly different. So if you're a booth user, this would be animated GIF versus burst mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at adding graphics. We've added a basic overlay. So let's see. What did we choose in files? iPad. Okay, we'll grab this one. I'll give you a preview of the template laid out. So if we, let's say we accidentally choose there we go. One that's not the right size, we can see how it's actually not lining up now. So this one's made for this version right here, and you can see that it's lining up with the preview. So that's what that's there for. Be sure you check it before, because in these little buttons right here, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. And so there is using a template. And we'll get into designing templates and using the PSDs in just a second. One more thing that I wanted to show you is we are going to, let's go to burst mode. We're going to use a logo rather than an overlay and put it right there, and then choose image, files. Ooh. Let's see, I probably have it in my pictures. Camera off. I used to keep everything in my pictures, and then because it captures so many images and my kids are always playing with this, it's then kind of hard to find the file I'm looking for. So that's where using files is going to be a little bit more helpful, especially when you're doing boomerangs because it captures so many images. So we can see that the Darkroom logo is in the bottom right corner, or we can change the placement. And let's see. So we have our animated files with only 2. And then back here we have our 3-picture layout. And then we talked about saving. And then we're going to talk about emailing. So next on our list, just so everybody knows what to expect, I'm going to switch over to, we got printing coming up, graphics, and I'm trying to stay on topic too and stay in order, designing and branding, and then sharing. So, okay, let's get into printing. The device that I like to use is the Aircast Pro. I have it connected, so I can't actually show you the actual device, but this is a little card that comes with it. It connects directly to the printer, and then you connect to that device's Wi-Fi, and then it sends through there. So DNP also makes one, the wireless connect module, I believe. That one works well. Or you can also connect it to a Mac and then set the Mac as an air printer, I believe. It's been a while since I've done that. But there are a few different options for printing, and we have those on our support page for iPad under printing. But the one I like is Aircast Pro. So we're going to go ahead, and I've already configured it to link up with the iPad, and I have details on that. But I'm just going to connect it to Darkroom now. So we're going to go to AirPrint, and I'm going to look for my available AirPrint printers. I should have 2, I believe. Yep. So I'm going to choose my DS40, attach to the Aircast Pro, and save changes. So whenever I print, it's then going to send it as a 4x6. That's why there's the 2-up version, and it's going to it's forced to cut. But definitely check out the video on how to set that up. It goes in quite a bit more detail. So take a picture. Somebody needs a haircut. And we'll click done, and it should send over to the printer in just a second. Let's see. There it goes. Took a little bit. Okay, there's my picture. Graphics. This is where you do it's helpful to have a computer, but you can use, let's say, Photoshop for iPad. I'll typically use Photoshop on my desktop. We kind of already went over adding the graphics, but the designing your own templates. So if you click on that link, or you can also search, I think, PSDs in the General Help Center. I have a link to a whole bunch of different Photoshop guides and also free templates. So you can download, let's see, let's go ahead and add that one to the cart. And let's get that over. And then I know I have more. I did. Well, we'll use this guy right here. So these are guide templates that are just kind of generic and general, just so you know where the placement is whenever you're designing your own strips. And then we also have some ones just to get started that already have some design elements in it. And then there are some, and we'll talk about this when, those are the ones I was looking for right there. There are also some videos for our track screens as well. I'll show you how you can add one of those in just a moment when we get into branding and design. Okay, so we have a few things in our cart. All of them are free. We're going to go ahead and check out continuous gas. And that is not my current address. That's when I was before I was married. I leave that there just so people can't find me at my real address. Okay, so we have these templates. Go ahead and go to downloads, and right here, download it. Go ahead and open Photoshop. We'll download that one as well. And okay, so how these Photoshop guides work. It's opening right now. Let me find a cool graphic to turn into a okay. Okay, so we have our guides. We know it's masked out where the image is going to be. Let me just drop in a graphic on top of it and we'll move it around. Whoops. Sorry, I got some things that are hovering over other things. I don't want the cropping tool. Okay, there we go. Move this guy to the front. Transform it. And if we wanted them to be identical, you would just make one and then duplicate it over on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and let it be just a little bit different on each side. And then when we take this mask layer and just drop it right there and then hide these other layers, we can then see our outline. It's kind of hard to see without having gray. That's why they're added. So the this box right here is essentially telling you what's going to get cut off whenever you print. So we can turn it on. We're going to lose that much of the image in printing. It's kind of showing your bleed. And then this one right here is just so you can see where the edges of the boxes are. If we wanted to add blending options, got stroke, and then we'll just say drop shadow. And then add some text really quick. So one of the nice things about it does require a little bit of Photoshop to do some of these designs, but because it requires Photoshop, a lot of the designs actually go up. The quality of the work goes up because of what Photoshop can do. And we'll just put that in color. Okay. And then, just for fun, we'll copy that stroke, just so it's a little bit easier to see. And copy paste. And then you can add a logo in or whatever. And this kind of gets more into Photoshop. And I don't want to spend too much time in Photoshop because it can be a little bit confusing. But that's, and then what you want to do is make sure that you can see through to your background. We'll go ahead and save it. And then you would email it to yourself or drop in through file sharing like Dropbox or OneDrive and then add it. And that's essentially what I did with it's a lot of juggling. Here we go. Okay, that's what I did with this one. In the last demo, it was this graphic right here turned into that background. So that's a little bit of template design and specifically the guide layers that are available at darkroomtemplates.com. Okay, so let's look at some design options that we have, and specifically on getting your company branding right the way you want it to look. So we're going to go to design, and let me reset just in case I've made any changes. Okay, yeah. So for my photography company, I have a color scheme that is has more of this teal color, and choose, and then we'll choose a slightly darker version, choose, and let's swap out the logo that appears at the top of the screen. Go to files. Oops, I probably have it in camera roll. It's a good idea to save to files rather than camera roll because this can get a little bit messy. There's my logo. And then another kind of cool thing is the track screen. We have some track screen videos that you can purchase at darkroomtemplates.com. Let's go ahead and add one of those. Go files. Oops. On my iPad in Darkroom, there's a video. And then you can go through and change the background, the different text that pops up to specifically what you would call it. Let's say, rather than make a burst GIF, let's change that to boomerang. Okay. And then, next thing to do is test it out, see how it looks, make sure everything's still working the way you expect it to. There's the video. You click on that new color scheme with the new logo. So we'll go ahead and exit out of there because we're going to move on to sharing. So right now I have Event Gallery already hooked up, but you would just get your API key. Once again, I have guides for this inside the document, the page for this webinar. And then so copied in the API key, and this part I did want to show you. So for email, we're going to click on, right now mine's already configured, but here it's set up for Gmail, and if you want to copy down the SMTP, the host and the port information, the username, this is a little confusing, that's going to be your email address, and then you also retype. There's a username and there's the email address, and then you type in your password right here. and then test it out, and you should receive a successful message. But if you're using a different host, then you would just get the SMTP information from that host, and also the port. So save changes, that's configured and enabled, and right over here we have enable SMS. Yours is not going to be enabled right now unless you've already done this. First you'll need to configure it again, and I can't click on this because then it'll show actually private information for Twilio, but you would type in your Twilio API key information, the authorization token, the SID, and then test it out again, and then enable SMS sharing right there. So we have those both enabled. Let's go ahead and see if they are indeed working. Start it up one more time. Okay, and then I'd click on SMS, but then I have to type in my phone number and I'll get calls all night. So we're going to click on share with email, type in email address and send, and that will send. And it also is uploading to eventgallery.com, or not, to my event gallery page. So event gallery is really cool for that. Let's go ahead and, well, we'll leave it at there. So hopefully this has been helpful. It's a lot of information done very quickly, I know. But we have that page that goes along with this whole webinar. They'll walk you through in more detail and a little bit slower on different options. So be sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, go to darkroomsupport.com and then go to iPad and then webinars, and you'll see it right there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.